Should you buy MicroStrategy stock or just buy Bitcoin instead? That's the question a lot of investors are asking right now. So let's go over what is MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy, and we're going to look at MicroStrategy stock compared to Bitcoin and then answer the question, what is the best investment for you? So I grokked it and I got some very convoluted answers, and we're going to simplify them. What does Strategy do for a business model? Well, first thing they do is sell business software, and you're going to get little fluffy sentences like, they help organizations transform raw data into actionable insights to optimize business processes and drive data-driven decision making. All right, that's just a fancy way of saying, all right, they sell some enterprise software. The subscription revenue is going up, it's up to 80 million, probably about to skyrocket as everything's switching to subscription. And then in 2024, the software business did almost $500 million in revenue. So they actually do sell software to businesses. But the main part of their business model that most people are going to know it for is their Bitcoin Treasury reserve strategy. So they have cash on the sidelines and they're selling stock and raising even more cash, and they're buying Bitcoin and creating a vast stockpile of Bitcoin. And I asked Grok to explain it in lemonade stand terms. So, they sell their lemonade, aka their analytics software, high quality lemonade, but they also invest in golden lemons, aka the Bitcoin strategy. So instead of saving all their profits in a piggy bank, the stand uses extra cash to buy shiny golden lemons, aka Bitcoin, which they believe will be worth a lot more in the future. And it even borrows money to buy even more golden lemons. Now, when the golden lemons, aka Bitcoin, gets pricier, the value of their stock skyrockets, attracting people who just want a piece of the action. But if lemons lose value, aka Bitcoin dumps, the stand could lose money or owe more than it can easily pay back. But what if I told you there's a way they're going to use these golden lemons to make even more money, a third thing that nobody is talking about, and then we're going to go look into the stock price. Author Adam Livingston has a great breakdown. He's the author of The Bitcoin Age and The Great Harvest, and he has found a secret way MicroStrategy could become the most valuable company in the world. So the world still doesn't fully grasp what Michael Saylor has built. They still think it's a Bitcoin ETF, but no. There's something different going on here, and that's their collateral, aka their Bitcoin. Saylor controls a form of collateral that no other corporate entity in history has ever possessed, and he's talking about Bitcoin. Now, this pristine collateral, aka having Bitcoin as a collateral, changes capital structure physics, aka it changes the way that companies can lend money to each other. But there's a whole secret world of businesses lending money to each other, and it's the reinsurance, I will say, scam here. So I was unaware that the insurance industry sits on $7 trillion in global premium income. So what does it mean by global premium income? That basically just means that the global insurance industry collectively receives about $7 trillion annually from premiums paid by policyholders. Now, the reason that number seems higher than you're first expecting, this isn't just counting customers paying an insurance company. Insurance companies have to also insure their holdings in something called reinsurance. So now imagine this. Strategy becomes the ultimate reinsurer. And in doing so, they can pledge Bitcoin as pristine reinsurance collateral. Now let's back up again. What the heck does pristine reinsurance collateral mean? Reinsurance collateral is basically money that the second insurance company has on the sideline. So you're going to have a primary insurer. So let's just say that's who you pay when you have insurance on your car, but they might have an insurer as well. And then so the primary insurer will be provided assurance by the reinsurer. And so if you have to pay Allstate, all right, you give them your money. But if Allstate has to say pay out an entire state due to a natural disaster, they might not have that money on the sidelines. So then the reinsurer steps up and they have collateral on the sideline. And then with that collateral on the sideline, it could be Bitcoin, the reinsurer will then pay the claims. And here's an example. So a U.S. insurer buys reinsurance from a Bermuda company to cover hurricane losses. The Bermuda company provides a letter of credit or places the $100 million in a trust account as collateral. And so this is where Bitcoin could step in. So Adam Livingston, he games it out here. So a traditional reinsurer demands capital reserves for solvency, aka you need to know that the money's on the sidelines. If a big earthquake hits, you need to be able to pay everybody. So Strategy offers Bitcoin-backed credit facilities at lower costs with instant liquidity. This reduces capital costs for insurers or reinsurers while earning Strategy yield on Bitcoin. And so Michael Saylor, he saw the in-game. Strategy becomes a meta financial superstructure. Insurance markets plug into it. Credit markets collateralize through it. Sovereign settles via it. And so Michael Saylor looks like he found the in-game with Bitcoin. Saylor's engineering the first fully collateralized corporate organism that can interface with banks, commercial banks, central banks, sovereigns, insurance giants, global trade. All of them need pristine collateral, aka Bitcoin. But now let's go into the charts, everybody. because we need to look at how MicroStrategy performs against Bitcoin specifically. So we're going to measure some dips and some rallies and then kind of compare it in the price, because MicroStrategy, they're not slowing down buying any Bitcoin. This is breaking from this morning. They just added another 1,000 Bitcoin, $110 million with their latest purchase, and they now have 582,000 Bitcoin. There's only going to be 21 million, and they now have 2.77%, knocking on the door of having 3% of all the Bitcoin in existence, which would be 630,000. So let's go ahead and start measuring the pumps and the dumps and compare it to Bitcoin. So the first thing we're going to look at is the election pump here. Now, during the run up to the election, Bitcoin, a lot of equities, they found bottoms around September. And so MicroStrategy had a huge pump where it pumped 392%. And it was about 76 days here, coinciding with a nice little peak at the tail end of November. And Bitcoin did a similar move. Bitcoin also found that little bit of bottom in September, peaked a little bit later, but still, if you look at the date here, MicroStrategy found a little peak there, the 21st of November. This is going to be the 21st right there. Bitcoin only pumped 90% versus MicroStrategy's 390%. And even if you'd run it up all the way to the top there, still only pumped a little over 100%. But what about the dip? So we know MicroStrategy pumps more than Bitcoin. Well, let's look at one more pump then. And so now let's look at the big print pump. This is when the M2 money supply started to hit these markets. And I think, probably one of the primary reasons we saw a nice little rally here. Now, if we measured that MicroStrategy, a little bit of a bottom there, April 8th, found a little bit of a peak there about the middle of May 12th. MicroStrategy pumped 70%. But what about Bitcoin? If we look at Bitcoin from the same time period, April 10th to about 23rd of May, you're going to see Bitcoin only pumped 48%. So MicroStrategy 70%, Bitcoin 48%. So when Bitcoin pumps, MicroStrategy will outpump Bitcoin. But what about the dumps? So we're going to look at two dumps. We're going to first look at the tariff dump, and then we're going to just look at this recent dip here. Now, when Donald Trump started getting mad at China here, you can see, that was around January 20th, Liberation Day. And then we dumped until about March 10th. MicroStrategy dumped about 44%. But what about Bitcoin? Bitcoin fell around the same time, but didn't fall quite as hard. Bitcoin only fell 30% to the 44% here. But now, last dip that we want to look at here is going to be just the recent price action. In fact, we might even switch to the 4-hour candles here. Now, MicroStrategy during this period, it was about 2-3 weeks here. MicroStrategy fell 16%, and if we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin fell 10%. Now, remember, MicroStrategy just got done pumping 70%, and Bitcoin also got done pumping, but only pumped 48%. So you're going to see exaggerated moves with MicroStrategy. And so, should you buy MicroStrategy? Should you buy Bitcoin? That depends on where you're at in the market. If you're super bullish, maybe buying MicroStrategy is going to be the better move. If you're indifferent, if you don't know if there's going to be a dip in the horizon, maybe you want to have a longer time frame, I definitely recommend Bitcoin. And if it feels toppy, aka you think the top is in, you should definitely sell that MicroStrategy and just load up on Bitcoin. When it dips, it's not going to dip as hard. So that's your little video explaining what the heck is strategy. Should you buy it instead of Bitcoin? And I'm Deezy, and hopefully I'll see you in Bitcoin or strategy stock, one or the other, at the top.